we go to our question and answer session. So is it like a forum style? So we have some question in our chat box. But if you want to ask question directly from your microphone, also we can do that. Okay, so just let us know if you want to ask any question. So I think we have each question for the moment for each of our speaker. So for the first one is from the Mr. Lavid Kumar to Mr. Anthony Wee. So what kind of thermal coating or paint that you use for the thermal absorber for the collector that you manufacture?
We are using black chrome. This is a formation of what I call electrode plating. This consists of chromium peroxide, fluoroacetic acid as a catalyst, and sodium malodate. So it's combined to form a selective layer of for the absorbing plate.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony. To Mr. Edison, we have a few questions here from Mr. Leong Siu Meng. So for the first one is, how would solar cooling system overcome the poor weather condition?
Okay, to answer this question, allow me to share a screen.
All right.
Okay, in all the solar thermal air conditioning system that we do, is actually a fail-safe system. So it's actually a hybrid configuration. We don't install 100% solar cooling, right? So we just chip off the peak load during the afternoon. Okay, we chip off the maximum demand. Okay, so this area here, you can see my screen here, will be supported by the solar cooling system, right? While the below area, which is the base load, is still supported by the conventional system, which is more consistent, using electric chillers or even gas chillers or steam chillers. Okay, so in this configuration, say it doesn't matter the weather in what condition, because when it's raining days, you don't have the peak load here. So your base load, the chillers will still be able to support the load. So during the hot afternoon day, where you need the most cooling, right, the solar cooling system will be at the most efficient level, where it can support to chip off this maximum demand load here. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Mr. Leong. Right.
Usually in your design itself, how about what is the portion of this system?
Okay, in my design, the portion is
do you have
most
idea?
of the time is limited by the investment cost.
Oh, right.
Most of the time is limited by the investment cost. So we hope we can go even up to 30% fraction.
Okay.
But then most of the time, I think up to 20% is very good already. So we have done, but it will be exceeding 10%. We do everything, it will be exceeding 10%, up to say the 20%.
20%. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So the second question to Mr. Edison as well. Does solar cooling system require a startup duration in the morning or daily operation? And if yes, how long it will take?
Okay, like I said, the startup is being automated. It will need a certain startup, but I think it's not that long, just a couple of minutes. So the system-wise, we have programmed it, like I said, when sun already rises, we have the solar energy. So we scan, like I said, is the temperature that you can harvest higher than the temperature in the tank. So the pump will run one round, the circulation pump will run one round, right? And then we measure the temperature coming back from the solar collectors. So if the temperature is still lower than the temperature in the tank, so the pump will stop. And then for another duration of 20 minutes, something like that. So this duration is can be programmed as well. You can set the duration, right? So until we run the pump, there's a temperature, harvested temperature is higher than the temperature in the tank. Then it will be continuous running until the sun sets, where we sense the temperature in the tank is higher than the temperature that we can collect. So the pump will automatically shut down or kick off. So in that, we don't have to worry whether to have an initial startup duration or not, because the whole operation is being automated. Okay, now talking about the return on investment. So this is also very subjective. Okay, we have to see it varies from project to project. Okay, certain project, if the existing existing chiller plant is not efficiently designed, that means it's running at very high kilowatt per ton, then you can enjoy more savings. So the return investment can spend, I think, below 10 years, maybe 8 years, up to even 20 years. Okay, but basically the investment cost is much higher compared to the conventional system, because the additional investment is required for the solar collectors, for the piping system, as well as the storage tank. Right.
But they can benefit for the long-term savings.
Yes, in the long term, they can benefit from that. And we also evaluate certain projects. If it's not viable economically, then we won't proceed on the project.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
There are some projects that we install based on prestige. It means you want to secure certain points in terms of green building.
Showcase.
Showcase. That's where we implemented the system as well.
All right.
Although the return investment could be longer.
Next question is to Mr. Lars. So, do you your cooling system is the type of solar absorption or adsorption? And also, can you comment on the COP of your system from Mr. Levitt Kumar? Mr. Lars?
For our mother's part, we are not the ones who are supplying the absorption chillers themselves. So this comes up to whoever we work with.
Okay.
Since we are able to do solar heating for low temperature absorption, 60, 70, 80 degrees, or high temperature, 80 to 110 degrees, that is what they will be depending on. The chiller's performance, each one they would like to go with.
Thank you. And about the COP of your system?
The solar that comes in, of course, is free, but it will be depending on the chillers that they will be choosing.
Thank you, Mr. Lars. And then from Mr. Edison, do you recover the waste heat from your base electrical chiller to be used in combination with thermal heat?
No. Okay, because the waste heat that can be recovered from the electrical chiller is from the condenser water, right? Which we consider the temperature quite low, right? Most of the time, the tank temperature that we have stored will be above 50 degrees Celsius. So we are unable to recover the waste heat from the base chiller.
Okay, so if you have more questions, then you can still ask. So, and of course, from our side itself, we already have a few questions to our speakers. So, Mr. Edison, why did you venture into this?
Okay, honestly, actually, the main reason that the company specialized in solar thermal system is because of my ex-boss.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, my ex-boss. So his name is actually IR Tan Chi Kian. Right. He's currently the CEO of Ikasa's group of companies. So it is him that brought me into the company to lead to specialize in solar thermal system in the year 2008. Okay. But this man is very good. All right. He has a very big passion for environment. Okay, so he even invested, let's say, the pilot project being installed in his office, the Ikasa's building in Puchong. So actually, that project has earned the company the Asian Energy Award in the year 2009. So after the project is successful, then thereafter we started to market the solution to the market. Okay, but then at that time, like I said, the business potential is not there for any solar technology. Okay, business potential is not there. So if the company were to depend on solar technology to survive, the company has long gone bankrupt.
Okay.
So because of this inspiration from my ex-boss, the company continued to specialize in the solar thermal technology.
Okay.
Continue to work on it even after he sold the company to me in the year 2013. Right. I was inspired by him, greatly inspired.
All right.
He has a huge, great passion for the environment. Okay, so we keep on pushing on this
Yes.
technology. Yes,
Yeah.
hanging on, while we survive on other trades of the business.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
definitely. Okay, so
But
that's
if you ask me, the
Mm.
potential of solar thermal is very huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this is the free energy dropping
Mm-hmm.
down from the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and the sky is the limit actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be as huge as the solar PV industry.
Okay. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Dr. Phillips,
Yeah.
please.
This is more addressed to Mr. V, is it all right? Because
Okay.
I remember seeing his presentation. He was saying they are putting in the backup heaters, right? The backup heaters for in case there is no solar, sun is not shining. What I have solar thermal heaters in my house. What I find most irritating is the electric heaters. It keep what is that? It keep kaput, is it? All right. So I take away I don't even want to replace it, you see. So my question is, can I buy a system without the electric backup?
The first criteria to choose a solar hot water system for domestic application, the consumption, the hot water consumption play the most important part. So if your capacity, normally the system supply will be, I would say 300 liters, that's quite standard. Okay, for a family 6 person, but your shower. If your consumption is higher than that, then they trigger the backup heater to come in. So that will be shorten the lifespan of the backup heater. So that's why certain proposal we are even introduce 2 units, but of course the cost will be high side. So normally customer is not accepted. So there is a case. And the other part on this backup heater, there's a fuel range. Normally will be a copper base. You can go for Incolloid backup heater because of our water quality and the oxidation. So Incolloid will have a longer lifespan. I hope that will answer your question.
No, it doesn't answer. What I wanted is I don't need a salt backup heaters, you see, right? Because I find it that because normally at any times that they are required backup, it's only 1 or 2 days a year. All right. So I'm more interested in a solar thermal heaters without the backup. See,
then
because
you have to increase.
Every time I renew mine, it comes with a backup. You see,
I understand.
I think mine is a solar mid or whatever, one of those early one. I think I have been using for the last 20 years. Already.
Yes.
Right?
So you can increase 1 more unit.
No, it's not. No, I don't need it.
Then
what I have is enough. Only thing is if the next one that I want to change, I want one without a backup heater. Because I find that is of no use to me, right? And it gets spoiled anyway, right?
Actually, I concur with you. The best solar hot water system for domestic, it should not come with backup heater. Okay, that I concur. But unfortunately, the market perception cannot. Everyone want hot water. They require hot water source for 24 hours, irrespective of any weather. So you can't. No way. So the best one I say, if my house I install solar, I take out the backup heater.
Yeah.
That is the best. So you don't have all the problem. But market perception is not there. Even you take an industrial application of solar thermal, if there are no backup, it will not work. So it's the same scenario. All right. So it's an understanding of the solar hot water system. Okay. Thank you.
We use absorption chillers. We were using the waste heat from the waste steams that we have for the absorption chillers, all right? And the absorption chiller is good if you have it, you don't have go up and down in terms of the load, you see. But if you fluctuate the loads and all that, then you got I think the bromide or whatever you call that. So many years ago, it give me problems.
Crystallize, you mean?
Yeah, crystallize. That's right.
Okay, this got to do with like I said, one thing is the load of your cooling, and then also on the chillers technology.
Yeah.
Because I believe last time the chillers technology is not that advanced. They may find it difficult to control a crystallization process for happening. Nowadays, for example, the chiller that I'm carrying and selling, Panasonic, they already have in place all this technology or the safety features that when they detect the chiller is going towards the crystallization zone, it will send a warning and it will automatically trip the chiller before the little bromide even crystallize.
All right.
Can I say something? I think Dr. Philip Tan brought up a good point. Just now, Mr. Kong answered to my question. The first question, I was surprised to see that he explained his solar cooling system actually is designed to handle the peak load requirement. But I think Dr. Phillips' point is solar system should be good for base load operation. So how can you explain that, Mr. Kong?
Like I said, if you want to make it as a base load, it's difficult because you cannot control the sun. You cannot control whether it's sunny day or rainy days. So the weather is not consistent. But your load, when you need it, you need it. So that's why we do it another way. We do a hybrid system where we take care of the peak load. This is we go in sync. That means we don't go against. We go in flow with the weather. Right?
That is what I was thinking. When you have for air conditioning or that, all right, you need a hybrid systems where you have backup feed. The solar is only to save you certain amount of heat. You see, all right, and so you have to have a backup source of heat in case the sun is not shining. Right? So to give you a constant level of cooling. That's what
okay. On that suggestion is I find it it's not that wise because you want to back up the heat. Why not you install the base load chiller? This is talking about the COP. To back up the heat requirement, right? If you're using electric heating element, the COP is less than 1. Right?
Okay, I know where you're coming from. See, I find that unless you got a very a source of heat that is free, all right. In this case, using the sun, all right. It's never good to use exhaustion chillers. See, it's expensive, all right. Unless you got a free source of heat, even then it's not that cheap anyway, all right. Because you're talking about just now, somebody is talking about payback when you see pay about 10 years and all that, all right. Industry will shy away. You see? That is just my comment only.
Yes, noted on that. So it's still a challenge in solar thermal cooling.
Yeah.
But the solar hot water usage is really viable economically.
Yeah, solar hot water is the problem here. The what I find in this country is this. You see, the solar hot water is very good for us. You see, the thing is that the high end capital cost in the front end, that is the one that prevents a lot of people from putting in. You see, whereas they buy a electric heater, even though it's not that in terms of efficiency is bad, all right, but it's cheap. You see, all right. So that is what and if you are a domestic one, there is no incentive for you to buy a solar because there's no tax and any what is that, the tax allowance as in the case of industries where you've got ITA or whatever you have, you see. So for a domestic one, which is not well, if I buy a computer, I can actually get some tax deduction, you see. So that's why the solar thermal in this country should also push for certain tax allowances for those who install solar heaters, you see. Hope the industry would actually push for that.
Yeah,
yes, agree with that.
We hope that the governments, we do some provide some like incentive or scheme for that to accelerate in terms of the adoption of the solar thermal in Malaysia. Right, thank you, Dr. Phillips and Mr. Edison. And so I think we are still would like to see the reason from the Mr. Lars, actually how you come and you venture into this solar thermal system in Malaysia. So, and is it has in your perspective itself, does this technology has a good potential in Malaysia?
Most definitely.
Okay.
There's a very good potential. The sun is here a lot of hours and it's strong. The incentive which are spoken about, industry has them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, of course, domestic don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
But where there is a need and a use for hot water and for heating,
Mm-hmm.
food industry, electronic industry,
Mm-hmm.
these industries, they use hot water and heating consistently, many of them 20.
Mm-hmm.
Here you can offset significant amount of energy by using solar.
Mm.
The only thing that comes up, same as what Mr. Edison and Anthony say, that the technology is here and the systems, they will win as hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
Because industries, they don't have the capital to install buffer tanks for 24-hour use for solar energy.
Yep.
You offset during solar hours.
Yep.
And here you will need a certain size of buffer, of course, to run the systems and provide a consistent temperature to the plants.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no plant operator or owner who will compromise their own product for the sake of energy saving.
Mm.
But this is more and more rising. We hope forces from national business, where you go on to stock market, more are putting demand for green incentives. Every year, companies that are listed must take incentives within doing green. And solar is most definitely one of them. Solar heating, when we compare to PV, is all much higher performance. It's just the perception that you can easily offset electricity on the compared to heat on your meter is not so easy to sometimes consider. And there's structure where you require water piping. So yes, the potential is much higher within industry and commercial than immediately within domestic.
Hey, Mr. Lars, can I just make a comment on the incentive for industries, you see? For those who are listening from industries, you see, some industries are already placed in a certain area where they have already got certain incentive given for those locations in that particular area.
That's right.
For the industries who want to actually using solar, they would not get the incentive already because they cannot double up the incentive. So for people already in area that has already given special incentive, they are not able to enjoy additional one. That's my comment. All right.
I would like to add a comment to that.
Okay, please.
We are very happy today to be able to say that the systems that are available does not require incentives for commercial viability.
Oh,
it's very can, but it's not a requirement.
Oh.
They can be made commercially viable without incentives and without double tax deduction. It's not a necessity.
Okay.
It's an added bonus.
Yeah, but still, when we look into the projects, when we try to approach like a project using an industry that using the natural gas, using the payback is not that attractive for their perspective, which is I think is in terms of the renewable energy itself, 6 years and 5 to 6 years is already accepted. But that's again the other like a sentiment or other reference for them in terms of investing, looking into the payback period, which is very quick, 2 to 3 years, which is of course the challenge itself. All right. So before we talk about the challenge, the biggest challenge in terms of your experience throughout many years to promote and then to sell the business in terms of the solar thermal, I would like to ask Mr. Anthony as well. Mr. Anthony, enter into this commercial and also industry. Any particular reason for that?
Hello?
Yes.
Actually, you based on our collector produce. We have the two model, which is mainly for commercial and industrial application because they will be for high efficiency. Okay. So we do involve in industrial and we have inquiry. Okay.
Okay.
So the inquiry from food industry, we have a lot of inquiry.
All right.
But so far there is no confirmation.
Oh, okay.
So the reason, of course, there's a lot. Yes, a space problem. Initial cost is high. Okay, return ROI is longer.
All right.
So and they say they need very huge capacity. Of course, huge capacity, then you need a high capital involved. So actually we are and we are trying to.
All right. Thank you. So I think that our speaker already highlights so a few of the challenge itself. And then in this the industry perspective of the customer itself to invest into this technology. But in terms of the challenges, what is the biggest challenge that you foresee for you in order to promote on this for the growth of the solar thermal in Malaysia?
I think a bigger challenge that so far our company we don't have what call thermal project references.
Okay.
So the confidence factor is not there. Of course, on our concept, because we are more on domestic, although we lack of technical knowledge and skilled installer. That's of course another problem for us also. So normally our budget budget price will be include some contingency. So that's mean the quoted price will be at the high side. So maybe that's one of the reason also.
Okay. So it's more on your company itself. Yeah, but in terms of the markets, what do you see that?
Definitely, as I mentioned by Edison and us, there is a huge market, but it's untapped. It's been the industrial and the commercial sector.
Yeah, but the challenge from the market is from you to for them to take this solar thermal projects.
That I think that is where when you compare what I call the fuel costs, the electricity cost and electricity low. So that's the main thing. So it is subsidized. So normally return ROI is not there. So this typically one of the important part for the industrial sector to look at it. Of course, we understand normally solar payback you get 6 years average, but they are talking about 2-3 years. So I think it's a tough job to do the type of project.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tony. Mr. Edison, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tony. So, Mr. Edison, you have quite numbers of projects in terms of the solar thermal itself. So I think you have some, facing some challenges as well, and how you overcome this. What's the feedback? Yeah.
The challenge is always drive down to dollar and cent.
Yeah.
Very high initial investment, and then with a longer return investment, right? Longer ROI. So I believe besides being high investment cost involved in implementing solar thermal system, so it's actually the awareness or mindset of the industry that is the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Right? Okay, it is the awareness and mindset. Because I see industry, they're looking at system to return their investment in 2 to 3 years time. So currently it is impossible for RE, means solar technology, to have such a short return investment. But in terms of solar hot water, I have certain projects that we are able to return investment in less than 3 years. It's still doable, all right? With the saving, it's still doable. Okay, but it spends also, like say, depending on the cost of the pipings. So sometimes the piping, if you put it longer piping installation, it costs more. All right, your facility needs a higher specification of piping, also it costs more. Okay, but the biggest challenge, like I say, is the mindset of the industry. Take for example solar PV. Solar PV in 10 years ago, when I was venturing into the solar PV industry in the year 2000, starting from 2008. Right. Basically, the acceptance is not there because we look about the return investment is about 20-25 years. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, somewhere there because we talk about 1 kilowatt peak is about 25,000 ringgit. Okay. Now it drives down to let's say less than 5,000 ringgit per kilowatt peak. Okay. So, but without a start, okay, we are not able to achieve a lower cost of system. It's the industry's mindset. So it has to start somewhere. So it's just that the industry, are you ready to accept a system with a longer ROI? Okay, somewhere more than 5 years, but less. All right, this should be answered by the industry actually.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the
good.
biggest challenge actually
Yeah.
you're facing.
To bring down the cost of this.
Yeah. So we need to start somewhere with your acceptance of a longer ROI. Then only you can drive down the cost of the system. Right. Without a starting point, I say that without volume, the cost will increase. It's not dropping. In fact, the solar thermal system cost is ever increasing.
Sure, yeah. So in terms of the awareness, what do you think is that how we can, provide the awareness to the industry? Because when we approach the industry itself, they are much more familiar with the solar PV.
We definitely need a big push from the government, big help, just like the solar PV industry. Solar PV industry last time is more than 10 years return investment, but with the help from the government, you have gone down to now about 6 to 8 years return investment, which the industry also accepted. And they even want to venture into the business. Many industry from oil and gas, from construction, they all go into solar PV business. Right? Even though they know the return investment can be 6 to 8 years. Right. So, but right now, in terms of solar thermal system, are the industry willing to accept 6 to 8 years return investment? So if they are, then we will have many more projects. A lot of projects actually can be implemented in Malaysia itself. So it's actually the industry whether they are ready to accept a longer ROI system to be implemented. So I believe this also comes. What are the benefits? You need a carrot.
Make
you need either carrot or stick.
Stick, yeah.
So that the industry can accept the solar thermal system.
Yeah. Exactly. That's comes over the question, I think, because I think that solar thermal is much more earlier. I think it's a already matured technology, and then I think we have a solar thermal domestic much more earlier. But still, the trend, the growth of the solar thermal is still slow than compared to solar PV. So I would like to ask Mr. Lars. Okay, in terms of what do you see that's the PV is not as well accepted because of this government support, but in terms of the solar thermal, we can reach the same stage as the renewable heat source?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, we are already now talking about the ROIs, and I think it's very that even you yourself also mentioned industry is asking for 2 to 3 years. How come, if you hear from the industry, how come solar thermal need to have a payback of 2 to 3 years when electric is okay for 6 to 8? That makes no sense. Solar thermal is a much more proven technology. It has far higher efficiency than solar PV. And we can comfortably today make paybacks between, I would say, 4 to 6 years. No need to go to 8, which is already less than PV. So it should already be accepted by the industry. We can even, when it comes to education and know-how from the industry, when you talk to industry, they claim to know how solar heating works. In principle, yes, it is not that difficult to understand. But how you, especially the new extreme high temperatures, the factories cannot just put them in where they want to put them in to get the high savings. The implementation, the solutions that are needed to be done in the factory to really make the high savings and shortest paybacks, they require industry much more open than they are now to work on a joint solution to solve problems, because the way they're consuming power and energy now, has nothing to do with efficiency. Many of the technologies, they are easily 50 years old and still considered state of the art, which is not true. But it's being done and it's being sold. So as long as they are cheap and still available, I believe there's also a lot in approval and certification that allows for poor technologies, poor efficiencies to stay up there. Because in PV, that's not so easy to have a big difference between a lower performance, high performance. But in solar, in heating, we have plenty of technologies out there, from boilers to diesel, and none of them are particularly good in doing the job. They are doing it, but they are not very, very good performance. That has to do with a very outdated regulation, not just Malaysia, but I would say throughout all of Southeast Asia.
Can I make a comment on actually for solar thermal for domestic? Is it all right? Actually, this is from my experience. I was actually pushing, the Monsters Boys towns where the quarters was actually, they wanted to install electric heaters for the hot water renewal. I said, what about going for solar thermal? All right, because it's it's green and you. But the thing is, if the system, if the house or if the quarters do not have a hot water separate piping, all right. In order to have a solar thermal, you have to hack up so much of the piping system within the housing, within the house, or if you do not already have a separate one for the hot water, it becomes too expensive. Because in addition to the solar collectors itself, solar thermal collectors itself, is to hack up the house to add in the additional piping that actually prevent them from actually going for solar thermal. That is what I find. Right? I do not know in the industries you will encounter that kind of problems or not, but actually in the domestic, that is a big problem, especially if it does not have the dual piping system.
I'm sure we can all recognize that is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that is the main problem for solar thermal, for the solar hot water system for domestic. As you know, domestic solar water heater is not standalone product. So you need hot water plumbing and you need the bath mixer. Okay, these two things add up will almost equivalent the cost of the solar system. It's very expensive. Yes. So we're looking at this average price of 5,000 for solar hot water system of 300 liter. The plumbing cost plus the mixer cost will easily come to 4,000 plus. So that's why you don't see the market penetration. The market is low on solar domestic because a lot of houses, once they move in without hot water piping, they will not go for solar hot water system because there's a setback. Okay. So my proposal also that it should be follow like this rainwater harvesting system. There should be building by law that hot water plumbing will become a standard item for property developer when they build the for the mid high end housing project. That will solve all the things.
That is for the domestic one. I think for the industries, you see,
different.
For the industry, the way to encourage solar thermal, because the way that I can see the government is moving, is to make sure the industries improve the energy intensity from year to year. If they put in a stick for them to improve the energy intensity within the industry, you will see more people will look beyond just the paper meter. Because is to actually comply with the government regulations when the stick is applied. And so there is the industry should push for that kind of stick to be applied. Not just depending on payback period itself.
So I think we are almost towards our end of the session, but we have 1-2 questions from our chat box. So it's yet to be addressed. So I think from the Mr. Tommy Chang to Mr. Kong, Mr. Edison, what should we look into if the solar actually has degrade or drops? So I think maybe Mr. Edison you.
Okay, what should we look into if the solar actual yield has degraded? Okay, you should look at your solar collectors. Are they covered with dust? So it requires maintenance. You need to clean up clean up your solar collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And let's say the drop, if the solar collectors are clean, is actually quite small.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you notice a significant drop, you must look into the cleanliness of the solar collectors. Right. That's number one. Then number two, maybe look at the piping system, whether it's actually working in normal condition, right? Whether the pump is running to bring the heat to your storage tank or not. Okay.
Mm.
So this is a certain things that you have to look into, right? So if the solar collectors really fails, then you may consider to replace the solar collectors,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like I said, the first look into the basic items of maintenance first. That will solve most of the problem actually.
In terms of the solar collector, usually the warranty, how long that you provide for this?
Okay. Basically, the warranty provided by the factory is 5 years.
Yes.
But we first venture into the market, we are giving 10 years warranty. That was 10 years ago. So the other 5 years is borne by the company.
Okay.
And we have more than 10 years history. Actually, the lifespan of the solar collectors, they're quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I believe they can last 15 years or even up to as long as the solar PV panels, maybe 25 years. Okay. But a lot of things also really depends on the maintenance. Right? There are installations that I've installed and then the owners really didn't look into the maintenance. And then stagnations happen and there goes the system that they installed actually.
Mm-hmm.
So stagnation actually damaged the efficiency of the system overall.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edison. I think the last question is Mr. Yong Sam. I think maybe I would like to ask Mr. Lars because you have said that before that the company expecting the shorter ROI. So how do you overcome this challenge?
Well, there's no way we can bring it down to less than 2 years when it comes to that. But the periods between 2 years and 4 years is a matter when you sit and talk with the owner and factories, and they see that you can actually use solar panels today. Warranties can even go 10 years, 15 years when the right ones. And lifespan, as Mr. Edison was saying, you bring easily. We have solar panels running in Malaysia that are already more than 20. So solar thermal panels can definitely have same or even longer life than PV panels. Same sensitivity as a PV panel will have. And there's no wiring, there's no electrical connections that we have to worry about. But it requires the piping connections and piping layouts to be done properly. That's how you can bring the maintenance and the scary part when it comes to replacements and all of this. You can take that risk away or minimize it. In the factories themselves, I think the trick is a lot to understand how the processes that the individual factories actually require. Many of them does not require, when we talk to them, even though they're supplying right now 120 to 150 degrees, when you go in and see the factories close up, they don't have anything that requires that temperature. It's just how they have been designed that way. So the factory would like to just change the source. But what you should do, you should go in and see how you can supply differently to your lines, how you can get savings much higher. And that's where the payback can go shorter. It requires system integration. You cannot do it on the solar thermal itself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lan. So yeah, of course that they are not straightforward to just look into the ROI and paybacks. You need to highlight more in terms of the savings, in terms of the long-term saving, especially for the solar thermal system, and also they need to understand in terms how it works, much more on the hybrid system, which is not the mainly.
Yes, and we all have talent when you implement heating systems. You have to go in and see how the heat is being used. The advantage when you want to go out and sell a PV is just how electricity is being used. Well, in here, I supplement with something else. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
But for heating systems, you have to understand how the heat is being used at the point of use, not how you produce it only. So.
Okay, so I think towards the end, this is the end of our session today. Maybe I will give I would like to our speaker to say maybe some final words from your side. Maybe Mr. Anthony, can you would like to say some things for the wrap up? Yeah.
Well, after 30 years in this business, you don't see the potential growth. I'm talking about domestic market. The growth that what we expected. Okay. In terms of sales, in terms of volume, but I'm still proud that I'll be able to play a small role in contribute preserve our environmental. Thank you.
So, like I said, to push forward in this solar thermal system, industry players, we need to have a lot of passion, patience, and also a lot of help from government. So I believe the help from government is where we are lacking at the moment, right, to make the solar thermal system popular. So I would suggest the government if to help the solar thermal system, okay, to push it as how they push on the solar PV. It could be as great as the solar PV industry now. So I say the help in implementing certain mechanism like the feed-in tariff, right, that will definitely help a lot. Okay, but then let's say to introduce a mechanism like feed-in tariff is not as straightforward as in solar PV, right? So how we can do it? Maybe let's say we can do it like how the energy manager system is being implemented in the industry. Okay, if you are consuming electricity more than 3 million watts, 3 million kilowatts in 6 months' time, then, you need to have an audit done on the solar thermal, or not solar thermal, audit done on thermal energy, thermal energy system. Then from the audit, it should be verified or certified by a competent person, like say the accredited energy measurement and verification professional. Right? Then that's part of the regulation. I hope the government can introduce. So from this regulation, then the government can work out a mechanism that can measure whatever solar thermal energy being generated will be entitled for a certain feed-in tariff. So this will actually, in my opinion, really help the industry.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
They are implementing towards that. We hopefully that's the ECA will be very soon to be implemented, so that we have more. We have as well the energy manager in terms they only cover both on the thermal and as well the electrical. Okay, thank you, Mr. Edison. And Mr. Lars, maybe last words from your side.
Yeah, I would like to add in that I think the key here is in all these projects that are being supported and focused on, they need to be highlighted up in the commercial viability. Otherwise, don't proceed with them. Because many pilot projects have been done throughout the world, and green buildings, etc., but they're able to duplicate. So we have to be very careful when we have beautiful organizations such as UNIDO, etc., that are giving grants. If these or incentives are used to create a pilot project and not something that's commercially viable, then I wouldn't support it. It needs to be that can be used to drive the industry forward. And that means tomorrow and 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, there are far too many star projects throughout the world. They all look fantastic, but when it comes down to dollar and cent, if it doesn't make an industry player viable, I think the payback of 5-6 years is scary to the industry. But they need the confidence.
Yeah.
Other players, they need friends in the industry to be using, right? Get them to use by creating real professional showcases which can be done up and actually recognized, not by government and so on. That's easy in a sense. By real players out there who will stand by and yes, this is working. I can recognize, I can use. Right? That's I would say the industry support is the one that is needed. You want to get them in. That needs to have.
Can I make a comment, please? All right.
Yes. Mr. Felix, yes.
Yeah. I've been in the industries for the last 40, 50 years, all right? And with the what the UNIDO is doing on solar thermal, actually makes the Ministry of Energy and Energy Commission, all right, more aware of the needs of solar thermal, all right, than previously. At least they are taking that into account now than before. See? So what you have been doing with UNIDO was something great, you see. And as to Anthony's comment about requiring a new housing estate to have the dual, piping. I think that is a very good move to do to make sure that is written into the code. If 20 years ago when I went to Turkey, when I look at every house, I see almost every house got solar thermal. When you look at Malaysia, where it's in the equator, hardly any solar thermal on top of the house. And that is probably one of the reasons why, you see. So the government should do more beside what UNIDO and SIRIM is doing now. They could do more in order to promote solar thermal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Felix and Mr. Lars as well. So I think in terms of what we are doing now, it's very important to keep the record and also do the analysis so that we can, we can present and convey, we can present in terms of case studies and analysis to the government, because the government need to have the information on that. So of course that we are, apart from that, we are promoting the projects, the MISA projects, work closely so that we can have information from your side, your past experience and informations and the capacity and also the potential on the solar thermal, so that we can conclude in our report to the ministry. Hopefully that's and I think the ministry, in terms of the ministry itself, they are already start, like Dr. Philip say, to look into this solar thermal. And then I think we have discussed with the EPU, the representative from EPU to the 12 Malaysia plan. So they are also aware on the solar thermal. Hopefully that in the near future, the solar thermal can grow rapidly as much as have the support from the government as much as they gave to the solar PV. So, all right. Thank you very much to our speakers and also our participants today. So before we close our session in 1 to and to answer the 2 questions from our organizers, so that we can have a feedback in terms of your understandings as far as the organizing of this webinar. Please, organizer, can you please? Yeah. All right. So you already answer. So hopefully it's good that this forum is helpful for you. And in terms of willingness to ask for the solar thermal, 50% say yes and 47% is still maybe. So we hope that in terms of maybe they are still considering in terms of this analogy and have some good perspective about this. All right. Thank you very much to all of your participating for today. So we hope that we can still keep in touch and engage. So in terms of about more information about the UNIDO MISA project, you can go to our website in www.mesta.com, and hope that we can meet again.